welcome back to Twitch. We are going today do something cool, something that usually is not met with a lot of enthusiasm, authentication. But we're going to talk about, what authentication is as far as how we're going to do it in relation to our chatbot and quite frankly, what we're going to do with it. So the word of the day is Amazon Cognito. Remember this. Most of you guys I don't know, I found out don't know a lot about Cognito, which is terrible. It is a great service and makes it so easy to do authentication without you doing those terrible things like putting your access key and your secret key in your code. That's such a no-no. Let's not do it. Bad, very bad. On the Twitch channel, as you guys probably can see, hopefully you would see Nikki. Nikki, say hello. She's going to be moderating and answer your questions. Of course, I'm going to answer your questions too. However, if you have certain things you want to talk about while I'm coding and I don't see them quickly, she's going to be your girl for that. And she is real. I keep hearing a lot of things like, is Nikki real? She is a real person. And hopefully one of these days she'll join me actually on the call. Okay. With that, let me start up. I'm going to do something a little different today. And I'm going to actually, which I'll never do ever again probably, but I need to explain Cognito really, really quickly, super quick, so you guys can understand what that is. And Randall is on the call. Hi, Randall. All right. So, Cognito. Let's get this going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my desktop because I want to show you kind of what Cognito is. And this will be super quick, so no worries. We're not into slides on here, but I got to tell you what Cognito is because you guys keep telling me you don't know what Cognito is. Let me just switch over really quickly. All right. Real quick, this is what Cognito is. And what we're going to use is federated identities, but I just want to make sure you understand what Cognito is in the context of what we're going to do today, what we're going to quickly build. So Cognito has it has actually 5, but the 3 main ones we'll talk about really quickly is you have the ability to create your own sign up and sign in with a managed user directory. So that means you don't have to store your own database and do your own things to have a repository there for anything really. So this is your ability to have your login without you building your own database, without you trying to set permissions. How am I going to retrieve the sign in? How do I register them? Things of that nature. You can go ahead and do that yourself, and that's super cool to do. So that's one thing that you can do with a user pools. Here's another thing, and this is the one that we're going to actually use today. We're going to actually make a federated identity. And so Cognito federated identity allows you to manage authentication to your AWS services, and you can do that with tokens, whether you have them log on via Twitter, Facebook, Google, Amazon, as a guest. Again, we have a lot of digits. We have a lot of opportunities for you to have people that use they have, the way to authenticate as it is. So why have them, have to do this while creating something new? You can also have them tie into, hey, I'm on Google. I want to tie this and do that like that. So we, want to have you guys do that. All right. So that's, Cognito federated identity. We're going to build our own today. We're going to use just our normal identity, and we're going to do guest. And then there's data sync. So you want to sync different, information, small bits of information to save the place where people were. Let's say they want to, I'm playing a game and I want to know what my high score is, and I want to quickly sync that. So when I come back in, it can show me, hey, quick high score. Or I was on a certain screen and I want to have that information saved. So when I log back in, it will take me to a certain screen. So you can sync small bytes of information with Cognito there. And like I said, we're not going to do a lot of PowerPoint for you, but I just needed to quickly tell you what it is. So again, where we're going to focus today is going to be on building the federated identity with that versus sync. And then there's, like I said, two ways to federate with Cognito. You can build your own user pool and then have your user pool federate using Cognito identity, or you can just have Cognito identity, which will provide a token, which is the AWS credentials, on behalf of the user for their services. And so in this case, I'm going to do that using Amazon Lex. So I'm going to create a Cognito identity and make sure it has access to Amazon Lex. And the experience here then is once I get those tokens that sign in, whether I use the user pool to sign in, or whether you use Facebook, or whether I allow you to sign in as guest, then I'm going to take that token and then I can pass that securely to any of my AWS resources. So whether that be Lambda, Dynamo, or in this case, Lex. You can customize this using Lambda hooks. So you can, have certain validations and things of that nature. And then again, like I said, you can sync across device, across OS with Cognito. Now, the last two ones I'll talk about, and I'll get away from the streams, are away from the slides. You can also do Cognito streams. So if I want to push updates back and forth to Cognito, from Cognito to updates to Kinesis, or to use destinations like Redshift or Elasticsearch, etc., I can do that. And then I also can have Cognito events. So I can have an event fire, and I can use this for data validation. So you don't want to make sure no one cheats in your game, or you want to sanitize data, or you want to inject some data like, oh, you got this level and here's a bonus, or here you go, this is your 4th time shopping on our site. Hooray. Here's a, discount code for you. So again, you have a couple other things to do with Cognito. So with that, we're done talking about Cognito. Let's actually switch over now to building one. Let's do that. So I'm going to just switch to my browser, and you can see in my browser, I'm actually in Cognito. So if you want to know how I got here, just so I can make sure I'm doing my due diligence, I went to Cognito. I'm just going to start it over. So you see here, I'm presented with two options. I can manage my user pools, or I can manage my federated identities. In this case, I'm going to select federated identities. You see that happens, and you see I have a bunch of them here. But what I want to do is I'm actually going to create one specifically for our Lexbot. And this is relatively simple. And you see, again, if you wanted to create a user pool, you can do that as well. That means I'm actually creating something for people to log into, register with, and the like. But I'm going to stick with federated because we're going to do this for our Lexbot, and we're not going to require them to sign in for a chatbot. So we'll do that. I'm not going to rate my console experience right now. So I'm going to create a new identity pool. Any questions so far? You have Randall and Nikki on here, so you are in such great shape in doing this. You probably don't even need me to answer any questions. You're in such great shape. So let's go here and start our identity pool. All right, so this is super simple. I mean, it's so simple, you guys. You're gonna not believe that this is this easy to do, but it actually is. You're not gonna believe me, but this is how easy this is. So I am going to name this our Twitch flower bot pool, because I'm so horrible with names. This option now says, do I want to enable authentication for unauthenticated identities, which means you're not requiring someone to log in for this. And you can have securely people not log in, but this to generate a token that will be refreshed for unauthenticated identities. And you can limit what they can do, but I can choose this, which is really cool, and say they can get this temporary token. It's still secure, even though you didn't require them to log in. One of my favorite things. So you can have people try your game before they buy it. Or for instance, in this chatbot, you might not want them to log in just to order flowers. You may want them to. Either way, you have the ability to do this. So I'm going to say unauthenticated for here. Then I'm going to click here because super cool. I can actually say I want to authenticate with, if they sign in, if they do authenticate and I want them to sign in, how can they do this? So one, we talked about they can do this with user pools, because as you see, that's an option to authenticate with user pool. You also can authenticate with Amazon. That means all I have to do is give this an app ID, and I can do that. Facebook, again, you go into dev.facebook.com, create an app ID, put the app ID in, And then I can have them authenticate with Facebook, Google Plus, Twitter and Digits, OpenID. So if you use OpenID, I know like Stack Overflow uses OpenID, and so when I log in with Stack Overflow, I use OpenID authentication to log into Stack Overflow. So if I wanted to authenticate through there, I can configure that with IAM and go forward there. SAML. So if you want to do this through your AD directory or any directory you have out there, you can do that as well. And then if you want to customize yours, you can actually build your own library. Or if you already have your own library, your developer identified library. So you've already done the thing where I have a database, I have a way that I'm authenticating them already. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. You can actually look at some ways to do a developer authentication. And if you're like, how do I do that? We have a sample. If you go under AWS Labs on GitHub or AWS Samples on GitHub, you can see a full featured example of building a developer identity with Cognito. And since I'm not going to do any of those right now, maybe we'll add Facebook later on. This is your show. You tell me what you want to add later on. Maybe that's what we'll do. All I have to do at this point, you're not going to believe me, but really create an identity pool. And so it's going to think a minute. And then it's going to come up with this screen that's going to ask me about what permissions do I want this token to provide. So what services, what permissions. I can get real granular with Cognito and even say they can only access this bucket because they logged in and this is their specific bucket. I can do a bunch of different things here. But it's going to require access to my resources. So you'll see here, I'm going to scroll down so you can see the whole screen. I have two options here. What am I going to allow my authenticated identities to access Cognito as? Let me tell you what's cool about this. I can have it where they authenticate with Cognito, and I can say, because you have authenticated, I allow you to get to more services, or I allow you more access. So let's say anyone who authenticates, they get their own specific bucket created with S3, and now I give them permissions to go back and forth. And someone who does not authenticate, there's this public bucket that all their pictures, let's do pictures, all their pictures go on that anyone can see because they've unauthenticated. And so they just get put in a group pool or whatever. So I can actually get really granular down to people who authenticate, what they can get versus people who do not, what they can. And you can view the policy document of what it creates here. Now I am going to obviously add Lex to this, but this is going to allow this to create now. Just say allow. That is successful. Great. Now, here's something else that you should really know about. No experience in Cognito. You have no clue how to do this. I just created this pool, and believe it or not, my pool is done. I just created this identity pool. Great. And I don't know what the code should look like. Once you finish creating it, I think this is just a really cool thing that the Cognito team did. You can select your platform, and you see we support everything. Whether it's Objective-C or Swift or JavaScript, Unity if you're building a game, Xamarin if you're doing cross-platform mobile, or .NET. I can select either of these, and it gives me the code that is necessary to actually put or use Cognito in my code. So here's, here's the Android for Java. If I'm doing Objective-C, let me scroll down so you can see this. Here's the header files that I would use, and here's what the code looks like. If I was using Objective-C, if I'm using Swift, header files, here you go. And here's what the code looked like. So no problem there. You absolutely have ability to do that as well. Now that we have that, let's go then and actually alter the IAM role so that it actually can get to Lex. So right now I have an identity pool. It's created. If someone comes in, they will get a token, but I've not given permissions yet. So we're, least privilege is best. I haven't given anything to say what can they access. So yeah, that's kind of important. So let's go now to IAM. And then I'm going to find this identity pool and give it access to All right, so just waiting here. It comes up. You'll see. I mean, you guys are probably so used to IAM, so no need to explain this at all. You'll see it says what IAM roles. No need to do that. I'm going to search for Twitch. And you see I have something here with Twitch. Oh, let's see, Flowerbot pool. you see that it created two. Here's the unauthenticated role. Here's the authenticated role. I'm going to actually change both of these to give a little bit more access, because I mean, it would be good for them to actually have access to the actual Lex spot. Now you see here, I'll scroll down. This is the current one. Right now it allows me to put events in mobile analytics. It also allows me to have sync, and I can have trust relationships here where I want to do things on behalf. And right now, only trust relationship I have is Cognito identity. So I can edit this and give, a trust relationship here. Let me cancel this. I also can attach a policy here as well. So if I wanted to attach a policy, I can go into all these policy types and I can say Lex. And you can see I have a bunch of different Lex ones. I have Lex, Amazon Lex to run the bots only, which is what I want here. I have Alexa for business. I said Lex, so it's found anything with the Lex, but I'm going to focus on Lex, and I just want this to run the bot. I'm not going to be doing anything that's going to create it, so I'm just going to attach this policy here. All right, that policy attached to the unauthenticated, and I'm going to do the same thing here with my authenticated one. So no problem here. I'm going to search for Lex. Scroll, I'm going to do the not Lex full accents. We're going to just do it for the run the bots. Again, least privilege is your friend. I'm going to attach that policy. All right, now I have a policy. I'm good to go. The only thing you have to do here, which I didn't talk about, and you absolutely need it, is, let me go back to my Federate identity. You need to get that Cognito identity, the actual ID that you created. So what did I name this again? It was Twitch something. Yeah, my memory is not what it used to be. I could have sworn it was Twitch something, right? Right? You guys are not talking to me. What was it? There it is. Twitch flower bot pool. Also, what's cool about that is once you have identities coming in and out, you actually can test, you can actually see it. So it'll say, okay, this many people came in on authenticated. I only have on authenticated. This many people came in with Facebook. Many people came in with Amazon. You can do that as well. I'm going to just go to sample code here because it's just the easiest way to do it versus going back everything. And this highlighted in red is the identity pool ID you need to create these tokens. Believe it or not, that is what you need. I'm going to copy that. And now let's go, now that I have that, let's go to the code really quickly. Let me go to my desktop so that you guys can see what this looks like from a code perspective. So hopefully you guys can now see my desktop. Now there's two ways to do this, right? There is two ways that I can absolutely get this going. The first way is I can create a class library that has, that has Cognito identification in it and how the code should interact. I absolutely can do that. Now, I will do that, but the lines of code to do this is so super simple that it's ridiculous. But I'm going to go ahead and do it here because we're going to actually put this code directly into our chatbot, but just so we can see it here. So I'm going to name this class, if I could type Lex bot auth, because I am so not created with the names. We're going to create a constructor here that is going to do something super simple where I'm just going to take in a string and it's going to be the pool ID, and then we'll just Cognito pool ID, and then I'll just assign this here. Trusty semicolon, forgot. And this is going to be like the smallest class ever because Cognito is so super simple. Um, I'm just going to return back true or false. No, I won't. What should I return back? I'll think about it. Right now I'll say void. I'll return back something, but we're just making a class. So say authenticate Cognito, or I don't know, authenticate service, because I can't think of anything. All right. Now, before I can do anything with this, obviously I have this base class, but guess what I don't have? I don't have anything thus far that says that I can get to AWS or Cognito or anything of that nature. So we should go and manage NuGet packages. NuGet is good for this. And I want to just do a browse, and I'm going to look for AWS SDK. Obviously, I've looked for this before. And Cognito. So it's going to find that. Any questions while it's looking for that? You guys are so quiet today. It's really super weird. I mean, no one's telling me not to forget semicolons or anything of that nature. I mean, come on, guys. You all are not telling me. Someone said if you can switch between unauthenticated and authenticated things, that would be interesting. And I will. So we can absolutely do that. We can go and get a Facebook ID or something, and then we can add to this class, and we can use this in our AWS bot. So we absolutely can do that. I am going to, okay, so I want just the federated. I'm not going to do a user pool. Luckily, you can see it shows the identity provider. That's a user pool. That's the sync that I talked about. I just want Cognito identity. So that's the one I want. I want to get it installed. Let me scroll down so you can see this. So it just says what's going to be installed with it. It has, this is a PC, PCLs aren't necessary because I'm doing it in core. But this will support Android, iOS, .NET Portable, MonoTouch, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to install the latest one. Oh, my library could not be loaded. Why? Oh, I do know why. So, this is the trick with Visual Studio that kind of sucks. And I'm going to cheat. Instead of going through redoing all the class. While I'm doing this, could anyone tell me why that failed? I mean, I know why, but do you guys know why? Anyone? No one's gonna even chime in about how I blew this? No one? No one's gonna chime in about how I blew this. Can't see the text. Okay, I will blow it up then, Randall. If you can't see it, hit add. This error says operation failed for details for project Cognito. Lex library cannot be loaded. Didn't import the library. Yeah. Why didn't it import the library? There was a thing I did wrong here, and it didn't like it. So if I go back to dependencies, manage NuGet, AWS SDK Cognito, hit browse. It's going to think about it. That's the one. I'm going to hit install. And then it fails. So tell me why. Brando, you are not dumb. You're actually the most brilliant person that I know, period, with anything. So that's absolutely not true. All right. So I'm going to tell you why it failed. And I have 6 minutes to correct this. So let me do something really quickly because I have 6 minutes. I'm gonna do a cheat and open up one of my other I'm gonna open up one of my other ones so that you can see why it failed. Projects, la la la, da da da. There, we'll open this one up. Yeah, we'll just save those changes. It's a feature, right? Exactly. It's not a bug. It's a feature. Okay, so let me show you. So this is actually, I created a LexBot service. right? Here's the interface for it, just so you can see. Scroll down. Voila, nothing, really, whatever. And here's a service. And here's the code that goes with this to do Cognito. I'm going to stop scrolling. I know that's crazy. So let me just go to this and I'll show you why it failed. Go to implementation. So here is my code for this. And literally our class will have, believe it or not, it will have just this line. This is all that it will happen. Which is crazy that this is how simple our class would be. So let me tell you why it failed. So you can see here with NuGet, I have Cognito Identity, I have Core, I have Lex for my other project. Now, the reason why this failed is a Cognito Identity. If I go back to the NuGet browser, properties, I should go to NuGet browser. And I said I was going there. And with 4 minutes, I have to explain this. So let me quickly go to NuGet. I need to pin this so it can stop going away. That kind of sucks. All right, so now I have the NuGet console host up, and I have NuGet in your tab up. Now you can see here I have, let me just browse so you can see what I have. Let me hit refresh because I do have packages going. I have this one. Why is it not finding any packages? That is so odd. Okay, well, let's do this. I'm going to do that. See if that'll help if I'm on the service installed. Nothing. This is totally weird right now, but I don't know why it's doing that. All right, well, let me just explain it because I'm going through all this stuff and that's totally weird that it's not showing my packages, which they're obviously there because you guys can see that my packages are obviously there. So I have no clue why it's not showing them in the, let me restore them really quickly. Maybe that'll help. Maybe it doesn't like something. Restoring. Now let's see if it'll show them. Updates. No packages. I have no clue why that's doing that, but let me explain why the Cognito one isn't working while it's acting crazy with 2 minutes ago. Now, you'll see this Cognito Identity package. You'll see its third version 3.3.2.14. If I search here for it, this is the key that why that wouldn't work on there. And I'm actually going to do a hack to make it work later on, but I'll show you here. So the trick is, one, I need to install the latest one. That should be good here. You'll see when I scroll down, there are particular libraries that this can go under. So it can go under whether I'm doing it. I can do that too. Turning off and turning on again, really, right? Because that's the smart thing to do. Or reboot. Remember, that's how you fix everything. You just reboot everything. But let me tell you why that didn't work in my class library. And there's a hack to do it that we're going to do when I get to the ASP.NET part on the next session. But you'll notice here that it'll tell you what kind of libraries I'm able to do. So you see that I'm able to do a PCL, I'm able to do Universal, Xamarin iOS, Mono Android, and Mono Touch, which is pretty much the Xamarin ones. But what you don't see here is that unless I do this as a PCL, you don't really see it working for request someone for Twitch to give you more time. I can take more time if you guys want me to today. This is up to you. I've been trying to be mindful of your time. But I can take more time than the 30 minutes that we have here. Why this is not working is what I selected for a class library here was I wanted to do a .NET Core specific class library. And as you guys probably know, that's a little different than a .NET Standard library or a PCL. Now, what this is noting that I can add to this is I can dynamically via NuGet, and this is probably more of a NuGet thing than a .NET thing, because I can add multiple libraries to the ASP.NET Core that include Cognito. Obviously, I've done it already. But what this NuGet library is saying for this one is it's seeing that I can only add this to a PCL or iOS and everything else. No new speech on this game. So that is the problem here. It's less about doing it in .NET Core and more about NuGet saying, okay, wait a minute. I see that this class library that you're doing is a .NET Core library and it's not just a .NET library, and I don't see that. So I can absolutely hack this. This is no problem, because if you see here, my .NET Chatbot, the way this is actually a ASP.NET Core library, but these are actually being used in here, and these actually work. And so I would just need to, again, hack this for it to go into my class library. That's the only challenge there. But let me go back to the code really quickly so you can understand how to add this. So back in my Lex service. So to add something for Cognito identity, tongue-tied there. The only thing I would need to do, let me scroll up. You don't have to add all that. I'm going to need to make sure I add these two calls, the Cognito identity and Cognito identity model. Another thing you should know about my class library that I have here, I'm actually using dependency injection for this. So this class, this is why I have an interface, gets loaded at runtime. But the bottom line is, what's important is I need to have using Cognito identity and using Amazon Cognito. Cognito identity model. Tongue tied. After I have this, the only thing that I would need to do is to have a Cognito credentials. So if I would literally, and I'm going to fix that other code so that I'm going to hack the NuGet, because unfortunately that's what I do. I hack stuff. So I'm going to open that project back up, and I'm going to add this to it, and then I'll hack the library into it. But I will just need to add my private Cognito credentials. And then all I would have to do after that is literally add one line of code. So let me bring back up that other project, and we'll put the code in, and then I'll hack the NuGet library later, which is really super simple to do. It's taking a minute to load. Come on, you can do it. I know my computer has so much running that I should probably close down so this doesn't take up so much memory, that I have so many things running. And I know you guys are going to say she always has 3 browsers running. Yes, I do. I just like having 3 browsers running. All right, this is now coming up very slowly. While this is thinking, I'm going to continue to show you the code, because again, I'm a little bit out of time. So I need to have this private Cognito credentials. I will add that. And then the only thing I would need to do then, once I have this, is to take whatever endpoint that you want. I'm actually passing my endpoint in. Again, remember I told you I was doing this through dependency injection. So I have a config file that would dynamically pull this up and do this. So that's that. So let me just open up my class library. I'm going to cheat, since I'm having some challenges. I'm going to cheat and put this stuff in, and then I'll hack it later when I have time to hack it. Because you probably shouldn't do what I'm going to do. In fact, I know you shouldn't do what I'm going to do. So don't do what I'm going to do. It's not smart to do. Don't do what I'm going to do. All right. I am going to add that line. And all I would need to do for this, and we know why it's not working. Ooh. Lots of red here. It's okay. When I hack the library, it'll like it. Yeah, Nikki's right. So there's 2 different things. I haven't been doing this in .NET Core. You can do it in either, but I'm writing this chatbot in .NET Core. So the library that I'm using for it is a .NET Core library. which is why I need to, and I'm doing a .NET Core class library, which is a little bit different than if I was doing, let's say, something else. So what I would need from Cognito at this point is the Cognito identity ID. So new Cognito identity, I would need the Cognito pool ID. So this pool ID, and then the only thing else I would need is a region. So what I should probably do, since I was making this a library, is pass in a region. And actually a region has a specific type, and I'll show you this on here. Let's bring back this one so you guys can see it. Region has a specific type. Let me show you. It's called, the type is an Amazon region endpoint. And so I'm going to, since you can't see this with the project the way it's working here, this is going to give me a lot of red, but that's okay. And in my constructor, I should add in if I could type, this would be so much better, right? I'm really supposed to be able to type. All right, and then I'll do this. That's such a horrible name. All right, and then, all right, now for this, then I would just need to type in this endpoint. Now I need to return back a token, and that is also a particular type. Let me just show you to you here. So when I initialize a service, it is going to create these credentials as a token. So I should probably return this back to the, if I was building this class library. So instead of doing void here, typing is essential. That's a lot of red. Once I hack that thing, it'll be fine. I should return that back. And believe it or not, that's all the code that I need to have Cognito working for this. Now, you're going to ask me the final thing, and well, you guys haven't asked me, which is totally weird. You haven't asked me about the pool ID. Now, obviously, I'm passing the pool ID in. And in our chatbot, because when I built this initially and I was just playing around with it, I like to use dependency injection because I hate building stuff multiple times. So you all didn't ask me about how, the pool ID gets passed in. And what we're going to do in our next session is, because I'm using dependency injection, I'm literally just going to pass this in as a config file. And what's really, I guess I could show it to you. What's great about that is this allows me then to authenticate without having any type of access key, user key, etc. going in, right? I can actually just pass this in with just a simple JSON file. So here's my JSON file. You'll see I can pass in my Cognito ID. Now, I love this because even if you could take my Cognito pool ID, the only thing you could do is run order flowers or Alex Chatbot, and you could only run them. You can't create it with this ID. You can't do anything. And at any time, I could even just remove that permission and say you can't do anything. That means even if you take my ID that's on the screen, you've limited anything that the user can do. You don't see my access key. You don't see my secret key. That is great. They can't log into AWS. They can't try to hack, anything to do with your Lexbot. I only have permissions to run. That's it. And so this config file, I'm going to take this pool ID, the bot name. So what's great about this code that we're going to write with ASP.NET is that I can take I can change the bot name, I can change the bot alias, I can change the region, and have this completely run a totally different bot without changing any other code. And that is what we like to do, right? Let's write once and make sure that we can reuse. All right, I'm 10 minutes over. But that is the way you add Cognito in code to any type of application. And like I said, I saw someone wants to do it with JavaScript. I'll switch back over to my browser. You can do the same thing in JavaScript or Android or anything of that nature. Let me switch back over to my browser. So you can see here, this is the Android code, but someone asked about JavaScript, so let me just give you the JavaScript. This is the same thing that it looks like here, where you would set a region and then create a new AWS Cognito identity credentials and pass it the pool identity pool. If you look, that code looks almost the exact same of what we did even in .NET. So it's typically this simple. If you guys don't have any questions, we will end today. But I will end on just something that, just in case, just because I did this, I'm not using it, but I thought this was really cool just to show. The last thing I'll end on is if you wanted to use, if you're familiar with Amazon STS, which is the old way to do it, I actually wrote code, and I totally am not using this, but I just thought it would be cool to see if I was using, you know, the simple token system manager with the Cognito, could I do that? And I did. So you can actually create a separate Cognito. Let me turn back to the code because I'm talking, I'm not showing you the code. Let me switch back there. Switching. I can actually, and I just did this because I just wanted to see if it will work. I'm totally not using it. You see it's commented out. But you can create a Cognito identity client. So just like you would do any other service, I can initialize this client with, you know, some anonymous credentials, just like you see here. And then again, I'm in .NET, so I could run you a task run, and since I'm passing, this is a sync call, I could return the get AWS credentials from SDS, await the token, and await Cognito ID. There are 3 different classes to 3 different functions I wrote here. So I'm going to just go to those so you can see it. They're commented out, so I can't do it that way. So let's just scroll. They're at the bottom. So if I didn't want to do Cognito, I could create a library or a function rather that had a task that returned Cognito response because I wanted this all to run async. I could do a new ID request. I could pass in the ID, account ID, and the pool ID. Here you do your account ID and pool ID. I could get the ID back async, so this would give me an ID to use for Cognito. And then I could write a function that would get the token based upon the Cognito ID. That's the pool ID. And then you'll see that I can save this ID because I can use it later for other things. I could request a new object, so using that identity, that ID, and get a token and return that back. And then once I get that token, I want these credentials to assume a web identity because this is going to be on the web, and I could do it that way. So again, this code is totally not needed. I just wanted to see if it was possible. If you want it, it's out there. It's just something I was playing around with. But with that is how you would use Cognito federated identity in your bots or in anything. It's really that super simple to do, to use that. You just need to make sure you assign your endpoint and your pool ID, and it will give you a token for your AWS credentials. This will work even if you wanted to do it with Facebook. The only difference in this code was, and you know what, actually that's a good session for later. We'll just build, it'll be like 3 lines to add to do a request to Facebook to get their token, and then actually add that token to my AWS credentials, and then I will be off to the races with the same code. All right. So with that, we are done adding Cognito. That was super simple. I hope you think that was super simple. I think it was super simple. So with that, we are done. That was so easy. I hope you guys thought it was easy. Even though I have to hack the NuGet, that has nothing to do with Cognito. That's just me going to hack something that you probably shouldn't do. Now, as always, I'm going to put this code out on the GitHub repository. So if you go onto my GitHub, I'll paste that link into the chat. But if you go into, and I'll also tweet it out, if you go into the GitHub repository we have for the Twitch Let's Spot, you'll see this code in there. So it'll be the code with the hack. And if you want, I can put instructions to how, I feel bad putting instructions to how to hack something. That's probably not me being a good corporate citizen, but I'll put the code out there with the class library of Cognito. And if you want, I can put the STS out there as well. It's not needed. You could just do these 3 lines, but if you're into different ways to authenticate things, I can put it out there. And with that, that's it for our session today. Next week, we're going to be live, including Randall, in San Francisco at the AWS Summit at San Francisco. Join me live. Nikki, Randall, Abby, all of us will be there. This will be totally fun. So we'll come back with this section, our Tech Bytes session, the week after that. So next week, join us live, Twitch, San Francisco, the Summit. We have a lot of great announcements to make. So I will see you back here on Tech Bytes, hopefully in 2 weeks. And next week is really exciting because we're going to we did all this prep work, all this background. We're going to now build an ASP web .NET Core running the chatbot. And we're going to use some of this code, this library that we have at Cognito. And we're going to build it now. We're at the end of building. And then we could add different features to it. All right, guys, that's my time. Join me on next week on Twitch at San Francisco Summit. And then join me after that back here for Tech Bytes, where we're going to actually build the ASP.NET Core. We're going to build the real thing. Join Tara at Tara Walker. Oh, that's not my tweet at all. What am I saying? At Tara W. You can tweet me at any time. And I love hanging with you guys. See you later.